Let's start with this topic, data explosion. Why are we learning about big data? Why do we want to learn about the ecosystem oriented towards big data? What do we actually mean by big data? Why is it so important in today's world, in today's digital world? All of that can be attributed to our raw material, and that raw material is data. There was a huge explosion of data. We call it big data. And because of that explosion, we developed technologies, we developed value out of that data, and we used it towards our business, towards our present world use cases, because we were able to take out some sort of advantage out of that data. In this video, we are going to go back in our history and find out from where data originated and where we are today in terms of data. So if we go back, data is a word of Latin origin and it is a plural word. The singular word is called as datum, and according to Oxford Dictionary, it refers to any type of facts or figures. Any type of facts which is present, we call it data. And there is a very particular distinction which you all must know about: data versus information. What is data and what is information? Data can be anything. It can be A, X, Y, Z, B, C, 1, 2, X, Y, alpha, beta, and 4. This is data. It does not mean anything. It does not refer to anything. I just randomly put it out. But it is a collection of some type of facts, some type of symbols. It may or may not mean anything, but if you have a collection of raw bits, it is called as data. If you add meaning to that data, it becomes information. If I spell Sarishma, Sarishma, there is meaning in those random collection of symbols. It refers to my name. So data along with some meaning is called as information. And we make a very clear distinction between these two things. You can have heaps and heaps of data. You can have terabytes and petabytes of data, but it might be the case that only 100 MB of that data is information. Rest of it is not useful to us. Only 100 MB is useful. So we call it as information. Now let's go back to our history. How it started, from which point we started to think in our human civilization, from which point we started to think that data is important. We should learn about numbers, we should learn about facts and figures. So it started way back in 431 BCE, when there was this army who wanted to scale on top of a castle, and they had to build stairs to mount on the walls of the castle and jump on top of that from the wall. So what they did was, there was this entire army and they were hidden behind the mountains, behind the trees, and they spent days all together to count the number of bricks, the number of large bricks which were there. And it was difficult to do that from a long distance. So what they did was, they kept repeated counts. Over and over they counted it, and finally they took a mean. So if one person counted that there are 150 boulders, the other person might have counted there are 200 boulders, some other person might have counted that there are 220 boulders. Like this, they accumulated data because they counted that, and they took a mode out of it, the average thing. Keep okay, so on an average basis, this might be the number, so let's create ladders on the basis of this number. And using that data, they were able to dig out information of strategic importance, because they were able to build those ladders out of that information. So that is regarded as the first use of data. After that, there is no concrete evidence that who did what, but we primarily refer to its origin towards the 18th century, when the intellectual giants, when the scientists were actually dealing with basic discoveries, with groundbreaking discoveries, with scientific revolution. Priestley, Newton, Lavoisier, everyone, they were working on different types of data. They were working on some scientific symbols. They were working on the data accumulated through their vision, through their logic, through their science. And from that time onwards, we give some importance to data. Another major event in the history of data came in the year 1854, when there was a cholera outbreak in Broad Street, London. So at that point of time, what happened? There was this physician, John Snow, not the one from Game of Thrones, but he was an actual physician who wanted to know that what led to the outbreak of this cholera. Why, so many people were affected by cholera. So what he did was, he took out data. He took out the birth death rate. He took out the frequency, what all was happening. And after collecting a lot of data, after collecting the information about who went where, charting the path of people, he finally concluded that there was this one poisoned well in the entire area. From that well, whoever drank water, whoever came in contact with that well, that person, that group of people became the epicenter of the outbreak. So it became a very important discovery, because he was able to mine or take out information out of a set of data. After this period, after 1854, census and all of these things started to begin. And around 1870, things started to go out of hand, because what we used to do, we used to record data on pen and paper. Everything was recorded on pen and paper, in rows, tables, columns. If you had to apply a basic statistic formula on that data, you had to do it manually. So things became a little bit difficult to manage. And the solution was given by Mr. Herman in 1890. He gave a tabulator where he punched cards. So there was this system where he used to put in data in the form of punched cards and then insert in that tabulator. And what that thing did was, what that machine did was, it reduced the processing time from 8 years to 1 year. So earlier, this census data was taking 8 years to process, to make sense out of that data. But using his tabulator, the time was reduced to 1 year. And this tabulator was later sold to a company which evolved to become today's IBM. And talking about data in the digital age, on paper, before 1980, we were doing everything on paper. After 1980, we had mainframes, we had clusters. So we started to do little bit of computation on computers. But again, the cost of hard drive, the cost of storage media was really high. MBs was a big thing. GB was like something unsurmountable at that point of time. So they were very particular about what they were computing using those computers. But after 1989, after 1990s, World Wide Web happened, internet happened, and simultaneously computers were also being developed. They were also becoming a commodity which was available to normal people. Earlier, it was a very expensive commodity. Only a limited set of people or industries were able to use computers before 1990, before 2000s also. After 2000s, the computers became a normal utility. They started to take that form. Now let's understand again the conceptual theory behind all of this. What happened was, after the year 2000, computers were again developing all the time. Every year they were becoming better and better. On the other side, internet was growing slowly and extensively all across the globe, through all the tiers. Everyone slowly started to migrate towards internet. So there was this combination of computers and telecommunications. Computers, an entity to do your computational work, and telecommunication, the layer, the era the realm of internet, where you were able to connect with different entities. Those entities can be individuals, that they can be people, they can be systems, they can be IoT devices which we are using right now. It can be anything. It is meant to communicate different entities. So what happened was, as we went from the year 2000 towards 2010 towards 2015, a lot of migration took place. I would say billions of people, not millions. There are actually billions of people who migrated to social media, who migrated to the use of computers, to the use of softwares, to the use of, digital dimension, digital revolution in each and every sphere. You take industries, you take your, you know, financial businesses, stock markets, trading, fashion, communication, of course, your social media, your healthcare, your scientific, discoveries, your space related things. Everything started to merge into the computers. Every dimension and every aspect of business was taking advantage of this new technology. And what happened was, the storage media, it became cheaper and cheaper. Earlier, if you remember, 10 years back, whenever we had to do something, we used to go out and buy a blank CD, right? A blank CD, and you were able to write only once on that, only once. After that, after I think 3 4 years, we started to get USBs. We started, before that we were using floppies also, right? But the revolution was happening at a very fast pace. Within a period of 5 to 10 years, we started to have very good storage media. And currently, all of you must be having your hard disk. All of you must be having at least 1 TB of space in your systems, right? It has become that cheap. If you have to buy a system, you can buy a hard disk. It hardly costs you 4,000 rupees for 1 TB of space. And over a period of time, it will become more cheap, right? Why it became cheap? Because there was a need in the market to store data. There was a very big demand in the market, because data was being generated at an exponential scale. So these two things, they went hand in hand. On one side, lots and lots of data was generated, and on the other side, the revolution take place in the terms of technology of storage media. It became better and better. So the migration of people on social media, it generated data. Use of computers in scientific community, it generated data. Use of computers and software in industries, it generated data. Use of systems in carrying out business transactions, not doing it on paper but doing it in your system, it generated data. So what happened was, after the year 2000, any industry which was using computers, they were keeping a record of their previous transactions. And after 2010, in the last decade, in the last decade only, we have generated so much of data that today we are training robots on the basis of that data. So the explosion of data happened. And if you have so much of data, if you have so much of raw material, you are definitely going to take something out of it, right? If you have a tree at your home of mangoes, you are going to make a lot of recipes out of mangoes. Simple as that. If you don't have mangoes, you're not going to make anything. Same thing happened with the computer scientists as well. They had this burst of data, and there was this thought that, what if we are able to take out something useful from this data? So the new technology, and technology being your big data, and the new thought process emerged, which said that data is the new oil, right? Earlier we were running behind oil because oil was powering our motor vehicles, and we knew that it was the key to successful trade, because it was reducing our distance of, the time which it took to transport goods. So we used to say that oil is very important, oil is very important. But now, if you look into future, we know that data has become the new oil. The industry, the company with lots and lots of data can do a lot of things. Why? Because out of that data, out of that heaps of data, you can take out meaningful information, you can dig something out, because you have the raw material. Because you have the raw material like mango, you can make hundreds of recipes out of that. Similarly, you had data, and we have not explored it like this before. So there was a lot of scope to get into this data. Now coming to the term big data. Why this term was introduced, big data? It was originated back in 1990s, and it basically on a very broad scale, big data refers to that amount of data which a traditional system cannot handle. For example, I have a laptop which can handle 1 TB of data. If I insert a hard disk and I start some machine learning based algorithm to learn on the basis of 2 TB of data, my laptop will handle 2 TB of data. But if I give it 15 TB of data, it won't be able to handle that, supposedly. So that 15 TB of data is big data as compared to my own system. Coming to my mobile phone. So my mobile phone has 64 GB of storage. It can easily handle that. But if I give it 1 TB of data to analyze, it might crash. So for my phone, 1 TB is big data. Similarly, big data refers to any amount of data which a traditional system cannot handle. So if you have a cluster with 50 systems, right, and you have a data set of size 500 petabytes or zettabytes, then it might be big data for that cluster of 50 systems itself. In essence, big data is any type of huge data which a normal system is unable to handle. So we don't give any concrete number to it. If it is 100 TB, then only we are going to call it big data. If it is 100 zettabytes, then only we are going to call it big data. No. For a floppy disk, it cannot handle 100 MBs itself. So it is big data for that. Any device, if you give it data which exceeds its computational capability, we call it big data. And now let's just briefly talk about the types of data, right? When data explosion happened, when there was a lot of data going around, it has to be in some type of format, right? So we basically classify it into 3 types of formats: structured, unstructured, and semi-structured. Structured data is the kind which is written by hand and kept in notebooks or in filing cabinets, in the sense that structured data is the data which is generated in the forms of tables, in the forms of rows and columns. If you talk about the traditional ways, it was kept in notebooks and filing cabinets. But if you talk about the digital way, electronically, it is kept on spreadsheets and databases, and consists of spreadsheet style tables with rows and columns. So any type of data which has a structure, and primarily by structure we refer to the tabular data, that is called as structured data. So it is going to include the sales records, the trading records, the payment history, the data, again census, all of these things will be included in your structured data. Unstructured data is the one which cannot be put into tabular format. Simple as that. It can include your photos, it can include your videos, your tweets, your word processing documents, any type of data which you cannot put into the structured dimension, that is called as unstructured data. Approximately 80% of the world's data is unstructured in the form of text, photos, and images. Nearly 80% is unstructured, right? Why this 80% has emerged in the last decade only? Because all of us have multiple social media accounts. The stories, the posts, the images, the tweets, they are so much in number. So it led to a boom in unstructured data. And last is semi-structured data, which includes a combination of structured data and unstructured data. So for example, I am Sarashma and I go to Lifestyle only to buy so and so products. So they might be having a file with my name, with all of my bill receipts. So that is my structured data. And they might be having an inventory of the type of products which Sarashma likes. So that is your unstructured data. And combining both of these gives us semi-structured data. Coming to again our basic topic, the term data explosion. It refers to the increasingly vast amounts of structured, semi-structured and unstructured data being generated minute by minute. Not even minute, now these days every second data is generated, and it is predicted that by 2020 we're going to have nearly 1.7 MBs of data created by every user every second on an average. So we have a population in billions. We're talking about billions of MBs generated per second. That is a very huge number. According to a recent worldwide study conducted by IBM, 2.5 exabytes of data are generated every day. So this is, we're talking about like 5 years back. 1 etabyte is 1018 followed by 18 zeros, or a million of terabytes. It is huge again, and that is why we are learning about big data. That is why we are keen about big data technologies, big data ecosystem, big data based architecture, how to handle that much of data in the real time also, in the non-real time also. The reason being, it helps us in our business. It helps us to generate finances because it has monetary values associated with it. For example, let's take Walmart, right? Walmart is selling 1,000 products every year, 1,000 category of products. In that, they might have sold one product like a million times, and they have a database and inventory of last 20 years. They have maintained it, right? Now if they hire a big data analyst, that person can take that data, that 20 years of data, and simply run the query that which are the products sold as complementary goods. For example, bread and eggs and milk. And that person, that big data analyst, can take out the probability that if a person is buying bread, there are 50% chances that the person is going to buy milk as well. There are 80% chances that the person is going to buy butter as well. And there are 30% chances that eggs will also be bought by the very same person. And what is the frequency of it? All of these queries, the queries of the industry, the queries of the company, all of these can be answered provided you know how to handle that data, right? This is where data mining techniques come into picture. This is where big data handling comes into picture. All of the tools and techniques will fit in, where you have to answer particular questions and give responses. And what is going to help you in that? Your data is going to help you in that. Coming to the source of everything. If so much data is generated, from where it is coming from, which dimension? What are the sources of it? If you take just the Google based data, there are nearly 3.5 billion searches made per day, and this we're talking about 2012. And just try to remember or understand that every search is going to leave some logs behind it. Every search is going to see that you clicked on which links have to be sent, and then how many click rate was there, what is your clickstream log, what is your preference log, what are the cookies involved in that. Every search is it's not just like I made a search and there were results and it is end of the game. There are 10 different queries running behind every search, and every data is stored and maintained to make the searches and the search entries faster. Everyone wants to be better, right? If we talk about Facebook, in 2016 only, there were 1.71 billion active users per month. And we're talking about active users. People like me who have not used their Facebook for years altogether, their accounts are separate. These are the users who log in every hour, who log in every 2 hours to say what all is going on. And estimated is 1.5 petabytes of weblog data every day. And this is just weblog data. It is not pictures and everything, just log based data. YouTube also has over 1 billion users. They are also uploading large amount of data every second. Second is healthcare. healthcare is also generating a lot of data, because very comprehensively healthcare is being digitized. The reports, the results, test results, everything is being updated on internet. Slowly we are migrating towards that, to maintain a centralized log entry. For example, my entire case history is with Dr. A in New Delhi, and I shifted to Pune for like 5 years, and my history is with Dr. B for 5 years. After that I went to Andaman Nicobar, and my history for 5 years is with Dr. C. And I had a heart attack in South Africa. So the South Africa based doctor cannot give me a drug if the person does not have any idea about my case history. But if that very same case history is maintained over internet, over cloud maybe, then the doctor can easily access my case history, right? So slowly everything is being sent to internet. Second source of generating data is your wearable or implantable sensors for health monitoring. If you guys have noticed, we are going towards this very fast. All of us must be having some sort of digital device, some digital watch, or Bluetooth based earphones, or something or the other thing which is constantly sensing our data. And we are working a lot on implantable sensors as well. SpaceX is working on Neuralink, right? Many sensors are being developed, constantly being worked on, and in our near future, within a period of 5 years or maximum 10 years, we are going to see a lot of sensors embedded within our bodies. If we talk about smart healthcare, we're talking about sensors embedded inside the bodies of people, so that those sensors are able to sense data and log it. So if data is being sensed, it is going to be stored, and again, that is your data being generated. Next is personal fitness trackers of varying complexity, which output ever more categories of data. Yes, again, these are being developed. Personal fitness trackers, a lot of trackers are being developed right now. And they measure your sleep tracking, arterial oxygen saturation rate, and etc. etc. It depends on what you are asking for. Those things are being developed all the time. Talking about again healthcare, a lot of scientific work is also taking place in terms of healthcare. One of the biggest project is your Human Genome Project, where the scientists determine the sequence or the exact order of 3 billion base pairs that comprise the human DNA. So we studied, like, this was just for one human being, and right now we are doing researches on different genes, and we're working on different variety of species. We might have worked corona into reality in a way, right? All is being worked on. We're studying about every structure, every molecular biology related stuff, every cell structure, how it is moving, the entire anatomy is being understood. That is also generating a lot of data. Talking about the biological stuff, if we're talking about computational neurology based research, we are taking MRIs of people all the time, so that we are able to see what is triggering which part in our brains. That is again taking a lot of data. Real-time data is one of the major contributors to big data, and real-time systems are those systems where your response time is crucial, where you need to process data in a timely manner. So there are two types of systems: real-time systems and non-real-time systems. Real-time systems are the one which are fitted in your metros, which are fitted in your airplanes. You have to respond in a timely manner. Even a difference of microsecond is going to do chaos if not handled correctly. On the other hand, non-real-time systems are the systems which deal with your social media data, because catastrophic results might not be there if you respond a little bit too late. So real-time systems are the one where you have to respond in a very timely manner. Autonomous car is again one of the systems where you need real-time data. It is going to generate nearly 30 TB of data daily, much of which will have to be processed almost instantly. So like in Australia, we are having trials of autonomous cars. In Europe also, we are having trials of autonomous cars. Tesla is doing trials on autonomous cars, and it is generating nearly 30 TB of data, which is huge, and you need to process it on the go, on the point, I would say. And you cannot handle delay in that, because there will be some casualty. You cannot handle delay at all. This is real time data. On the other hand, the queries of students which ask questions all the time, that can be your non real time data, right? Because it can be answered after 24-hour delay. Simple difference, just trying to make you understand. And other real time systems, they involve your airplanes, GPS systems, satellites, your missiles. If you fire Rafale in some other direction, it will destroy another country, right? So there you need real time response. Satellites also are very important in this. Talking about astronomical data, astronomical data also generates a lot of data. If we talk about International Data Corporation report, they estimated that digital universe will be generating nearly 44 trillion gigabytes. 44 trillion gigabytes. That much of data they are going to generate. And again, just simple examples. There is a very large telescope in Chile. It is an optical telescope, and it has 4 telescopes in total. Every telescope is generating nearly 50 TB of data per night. 50 TB per night. So nearly it is 60 TB of data generated every night. And you have to save this data. You have to record this data. After recording, you have to analyze this data. Maybe some discovery happens after 20 years and you need historical data. You need the data belonging to the year 2016. So you need to have it stored somewhere, right? Again, this is one more example of large synoptic survey, a 10-year project repeatedly producing maps of the night sky, creating an estimated grand total of 60 petabytes. So you're generating a map of how night sky is working. And what is the use of all of this data? It is almost impossible to take part in everyday activities and avoid having some personal data collected electronically. This is the reality of the world we are living in today. No matter what we do, you will be interacting with the digital dimension. You will be giving something to the digital dimension, and it is very hard to escape that realm, right? For example, supermarket checkouts collect data on what we buy. They store it. Even if you ask them not to collect your number, not to edit your entry in your log, they will refuse. They will not, make your bill altogether. Airlines collect information about our travel arrangements. It is being collected. Banks collect our financial data. It is being collected. Everything is recorded. Big data is used extensively in commerce, medicine, and has applications in law, sociology, marketing, public health, and all the areas of natural science. Data in all its forms. Data in all its forms has the potential to develop a wealth of useful information if we can develop ways to extract it. Again, the raw material analogy. You have the raw material data. You have it many forms, and it has the potential to provide wealth, to provide monetary advantages, to provide advantages in any term, be it your scientific advantages, be it your financial advantages, or in any field of science, if we can develop ways to extract it. So this if and the ways to extract it, this is what is studied in your big data technology, because we're learning about the ways to extract from data, extract information from data. We determine which patterns are important when we learn about big data analytics. We detect patterns, we check whether our conceived patterns are right or wrong. We check about theories. If I have to launch a fashion product, if I have to launch a neon and black colored t-shirt, I am going to check whether my customers have that sort of taste or not. And supposedly I own a very funky fashion store and all they like is bright orange and bright neon, right? So if I see that a lot of people have bought a bright neon shirt and a bright orange shirt, so I might launch a combination of those two. Like Nike launched one shoe neon and one shoe orange because they thought that it might be popular. So those ideas can be validated by using the data which is collected beforehand. So that is how you can predict whether your product is going to work or not beforehand, even before launching the product. So that is how it helps us. The big data revolution has given us smart cars and home monitoring. Yes, it has. Ultimate aim of working with big data is to extract useful information. Ultimate aim is to take out value out of that data, dig that data, mine that data, apply tools, apply techniques, just take out everything from that data. The ability to gather data electronically resulted in the emergence of data science, bringing together the disciplines of statistics and computer science. Again, let's go back to the raw material analogy. If I have a mango tree, if I have lots and lots of mangoes, then I'm going to learn about the advantages of mangoes, learn about how it can be used in Ayurvedic medicine, how it can be used in desserts, how it can be used in savory dishes. Maybe I launch a competition like MasterChef Mango or whatsoever. Like, from where did all of these ideas come from? They came from the possibility of having a raw material. Now, after 2000s, after 2010, from the past 2 decades, or more precisely from the last decade, we have a lot of raw material, and that presence of raw material has opened our path to do a lot of stuff. And through that potential, through those horizons which have been opened, we have got a new branch of science called as data science. So we're using statistics, we are using business analytics, we are using machine learning, we're using algorithms, we're using data structures, we're using everything that we can to experiment and to take out information out of that data. And whatever you're applying, whatever type of algorithms or techniques or tools you're applying, they all come under data science. Coming back to our analogy, from mango to a dish which I have to eat, right? Out of mango, definitely I cannot make detergent out of mango. I am going to make something which I can eat, which is edible, maybe a achar or any type of thing. Similarly, out of data you are going to produce information. The end product is information. Through mango, the end product is your dish. You can make a sweet dish, you can make a salty dish, you can make a bitter dish, you can make a poison type of dish, whatever you want. And there will be different disciplines involved in it, right? I might involve some chemical or some cooking strategy or so and so. There are different things which I can do with a particular mango. In the same manner, I can do different things with that data, but my end result has to be my information. So that process where I am cooking my data, that process comes under data science. And you can apply whatever you want, be it your statistics, be it your different scientific disciplines. You can combine anything that you like into that process so that you're able to take out better information. That entire discipline is called as data science. It did not exist before because, again, such huge amounts of data did not exist before, but in today's world they do exist, and we have a new discipline called as data science, and we're looking for data scientists because we have a lot of data to mine. And in the future also, this amount of data is going to increase, it is not going to decrease. So there is a very big scope of projects, of techniques, of algorithms, of tools, of everything, right? Let's read this. Ability to gather data electronically resulted in the emergence of data science, bringing together the disciplines of statistics and computer science. In order to analyze these large quantities of data to discover new knowledge in interdisciplinary areas of application. Okay, so satellite and ground sensors, this is one of the application of big data, because we were sensing the data from the ground sensors, we were sensing the seismic activity, and in 2016 the US Geological Survey, they estimated that there is a 76% probability that a magnitude 7 earthquake will occur within the next 30 years in Northern California. So what happens is, when we talk about earthquake, we are talking about the magnetic seismic plates which are moving under the earth, under the surface of the earth. So those are large pieces of lithosphere, large pieces of stones, layers of stones, which keep on climbing over each other, or they keep on separating, and that leads to earthquakes. By sensing a lot of data, those scientists, the scientists at the US Geological Survey, they were able to predict that there is going to be an earthquake. The tectonic plates underneath the surface are going to shift, they are going to move, and if they are going to move, there will be a massive earthquake. So this is a very important information, and this information emerged out of the data which was sensed by these sensors, right? It might be over a long period of time. And what it did was, we then worked on resources, to focus on resources to apply some sort of measures so that the loss is to the minimum possible level. It cannot happen that people can move out of that place at one day's notice, but it can happen that, you know, they might develop a very good strategy, a very good disaster management strategy. They might design the new homes with earthquake, you know, handling resistance. All of those strategies can be applied once they have this useful information. So what they worked on was, they ensured that buildings were able to withstand earthquakes. They were able to work on disaster management programs. They were able to work on educating people about what to do, what not to do, how to behave, what are the safe houses. Every strategy can then be worked upon. So this is one of the potential use case to see how big data can help us to solve our problems. And this is the last slide of this lecture, where you can go through the scale. If we talk about 1 bit, we're talking about a binary digit which can take the form of 0 or 1. If we're talking about 1 byte, we're talking about 8 bits of data. If we talk about 1 kilobyte, we're talking about 1000 bytes of data. 1 megabyte is your 1000 kilobytes of data. So everything is going in the power of 2, if you can put it over here also. 1 gigabyte is your 1000 megabytes. 1 terabyte is your 1000 gigabytes. 1 petabyte is your 1000 terabytes. 1 exabyte is your 1000 petabytes. 1 zettabyte is your 1000 exabytes. And 1 yottabyte is your 1000 zettabytes. So if you go to the power of 10, you will reach 10 to the power of 8 over here, I think. More than that. Yeah. So this is 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. So over here, you're going to the power of 24. And this scale is definitely going to increase by the time, you know, we are 10 years into the future. That is all about the explosion of data, why big data has become important, what are the major sources of data, and how we can use this data. So this was just the overview. In the next lecture, we are going to talk about the types of data. We're going to talk about the advantages of big data, a little bit about characteristics of big data. All of those things will be covered. Thank you very much.